Hey guys, me Nuggy Puck, and since it's almost Halloween, I thought I'd react to something spooky. This is a Source filmmaker creepypasta called It Has No Face. So let's just sit back, relax, and watch it. Oh, I also got a new microphone with a pop filter. Already pretty creepy.
Everyone has tales about the strange and bizarre. My story is about how my ski mask saved my life and continues to save my life to this very day. Late in December, I was traveling north from California to my home state,
Turn the
Oregon.
volume up.
Nothing fancy, I was just going to visit the family for the holidays. On my way north, I hit a small snowstorm. Nothing awful, just a lot of snow falling at once. I wasn't worried about the small increase of snow at first, considering I had snow tires installed before I started my long journey home.
Ooh, that's good.
I did,
that's
however,
good.
get a little hesitant to drive when the snow started to really come
Yeah,
down.
I would be too. That would be
The large
weird.
amount of falling snow, coupled with the large amount of already littering the ground as I traveled higher into the
That's a
mountains,
lot of
caused
snow.
me to consider finding a place to stay for
That
the
is
night.
so much snow.
I figured I could get some sleep while the storm passed over. That and the fact that I could give my car's heater a break before it would decide to burst into flames, or worse, just stop working altogether.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
I scanned as much of the landscape as I could, but there were no buildings in the immediate area. The only other option I had for my predicament was to keep driving and hope there was a town or exit nearby that I could take in order to escape from the storm.
Yeah, that would be scary if there wasn't
I must have been
anything
driving for at
around.
least an hour before I saw a sign up ahead indicating how far the closest city was. My heart sank a little when I read 162 miles.
Oh, guys, by the way, big shout out to Super Static Pro for making this animation. Back to the video now.
The other option I had for my predicament was to keep driving and hope there was a town or exit nearby that I could take in order to
Yeah,
escape
as
from
I
the
said,
storm.
this would be scary to just not
I
have
must have been
anything.
driving for at least an hour before I saw a sign up ahead indicating how far the closest city was. My heart sank a little when I read
162
as
miles.
it flew by my windshield and vanished
Just
into
wow,
the snowy
right?
night. At this point, the snow was beating against my windshield, and I knew I wasn't going to last 162 minutes, let alone miles. The digital clock on my radio read 1:21 a.m.
1:21
The
a.m.
next turnoff I saw,
That is
I would
so
take in hope that I
early.
could find a neighborhood that will produce some results on my current endeavor. My thought process was either freeze to death in my car or stay the night at some random person's house. Weighing the two options in my head, I
I'd do
picked
the
only
second
thing
one.
a sane person would pick and
Number 2.
tried to find a house. Another 30 minutes flew by and still no luck finding a place to pull off. Just when I was starting to lose hope, I saw a turnoff in the distance. A
Yes.
small shape started to make its way closer into my headlights, and on further inspection, it was revealed to me that there were 2 wooden poles that possibly belonged to a fence.
Yes.
When I turned onto the road between the 2 wooden poles, the ground beneath felt rocky and rough.
Well, I mean, it probably is a
Like I was
cabin,
traveling on
right?
gravel.
Those are pretty rocky.
I didn't drive for too long before I started to see a small cabin creep into my field of view. The lights in the cabin were off, but the place seemed to be in fairly good shape. I parked my car under a tall, wild-looking tree that took residence on the cabin's front lawn. Getting out of my car, I immediately grabbed my extra jacket and put it on. Also, pulling the ski mask I wore around my neck up over my ears to keep heat around my face.
Yeah, that makes sense.
After
I mean,
putting
I'd
my
get
cap
really
snug
cold
on my
too.
head, I trudged up to the cabin. As I traveled through the cold, windy night up to what I felt was my salvation, I immediately regretted not getting any gloves for my hands. Despite the irritation I had with my hands, my face and the rest of my body were comfortably warm, so I didn't have much room to complain.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean,
I
it'd
stuck
probably
my
be pretty
frozen hands
warm
deep into my
what he's
pockets and
wearing.
continued my journey across the cabin's lawn. As I made my way to the door, I noticed something a bit odd. There was no indication of life.
No, get out of there. Get out of
There
there.
wasn't even a car in the
Dude,
front
you gotta
yard.
get out of there.
taking my right hand out of
That's
my
not
pocket.
safe.
I knocked 3 times, waiting
Hello,
patiently before
who's
saying,
there?
"Hello? Is anybody there? I'm sorry to bother you so late at night, but I need a place to stay for a few hours." Nothing answered my plea for help. So I knocked 3 more times on the door, hitting my knuckles harder against the aged wood of the entrance. "Hello?" I said, again, a
I'm
little
sorry,
louder before
I'm in the
continuing with,
shower.
"I'm not here to rob you or anything. I just need a place to stay for the rest of the night. I promise I will be gone by sunrise." As I finished my last sentence, I touched the ornate metal door handle, noticing that the door seemed to be unlocked.
No.
I said in a loud voice, "I'm coming in now.
No.
If there's anybody in there, please,
No,
please
don't
let me know."
do it.
I pressed the metal lever down, finding it a bit odd that the door was unlocked, and opened the door with little resistance on the other end.
No, don't do
Closing
it.
behind me with about the same resistance, despite the fact the door was really, really old.
Pretty
Looking
nice.
around the area, I noticed the cabin
Cabin?
had 5 rooms.
Why are there
The
ducks
living
over
room,
there?
which was the largest.
Did
A
you guys
small
see that?
kitchen, an even smaller washroom, and what
Wait a
I
minute. Wait,
assumed
whoa,
were
whoa. What?
two
That
small
that
bedrooms in the back.
thing. Did you see
An
that?
even smaller washroom, and
Did
what
you
I
guys?
assumed
There,
were
there.
2
Did you
small
see that?
bedrooms in the back.
Or is it just me?
No lights were on inside this cozy cabin, making it
Did
almost
anybody else see that?
perfectly
That
dark,
little
if my
Five
eyes
Nights at
weren't
Freddy's
already
thing?
adjusted to the darkness from outside.
Did anybody else see that, or was it just me?
I decided the best thing to do would be to search for a light switch, so
Comment
I
down
took out
below
my
if
phone
you
and turned
actually
on the
just saw
flashlight
that.
app to scan the walls. Of course, my scan produced no results, however, and at the risk of losing precious battery power on my phone, I decided the best option would be to turn off the light and put my phone on airplane mode. Before turning off
This
my light, I
man's-
studied the paintings hanging on the wall that I glossed over in the initial scan. Each painting that crossed my sight was just typical landscapes of harbors, things like that. There was a painting that looked like a fox hunt or something similar, but other than that, it was just typical paintings you would see hanging on the walls around an elderly person's home.
Yeah. I'd agree.
There was one painting, however, that did catch my attention.
Oh no.
The painting was
Oh,
small
no.
and consisted of what looked like 2 adults.
No,
Mother,
no.
father, a teenage girl, and a
No.
small child.
No.
The family captured in that painting were wearing what looked like Victorian-era clothing.
No.
I'm only
No,
guessing about the
no.
clothes. I mean, they could have been from the 1800s or
No, no,
early
no.
20th century. The
This
point is that
spooky.
the clothing was very ornate and regal. There was something really disturbing about the image, though. The faces of each member of the family appeared as if they were smoothed over with clay.
What do you mean?
It's kind of hard to describe, I know, but
Oh.
the 3 family members looked like they had no facial features.
My God.
By no facial features, I mean, instead of the normal ones that you and I have, the 3 people in the painting had grooves of smooth flesh where normally you would have eyes, or nose, mouth.
Why is there only one person that has
The
a
only person in
face?
the painting that didn't possess a blank face was the teenage girl, which
Oh
appeared to
my
be
God.
normal for a teenage girl. In fact, she was actually quite breathtaking.
What?
I pulled myself away from the painting to take a glance at my phone for the first time. My phone indicated that it was past 2 o'clock in the morning, so
Oh
I
my
decided to go back to
God.
the room and check to see if it was occupied.
Probably is.
To my relief, the room
By
was
a
vacant.
monster. It's gonna eat you.
Besides a medium-sized bed, ornate dresser, and a nightstand, there wasn't much to go by. The walls were blank, apart more sappy paintings to give it a little more atmosphere, I suppose. Although there was no indication of a heating system, besides a chimney, the rooms were bearable enough that I figured I could just bundle up in my clothes under the covers in order to stay warm. I was only going to be there for a few hours
Don't
anyway,
do
so there
it.
wasn't much point in starting a fire, plus the people who own the cabin would be back tonight considering how late it was. I hopped into the worn-out bed, facing the open door next to the other door, which I assumed was a closet, and pulled my ski mask completely up over my face to make sure my head would stay nice and warm for the rest of my stay.
What?
Pulling the fabric of my mask down slightly, I set the alarm on my phone for 4:30 a.m. and put it back down on the
Why
nightstand.
4:30?
I covered my face again and bundled up tightly with the sheets, closing my eyes and letting dreamland take me away until I woke up after what only felt like minutes, to the sound of scratching.
Oh.
My body froze as I heard the noise over and over again,
No.
softly coming from the closed door.
Oh,
I tried to relax,
no. Oh,
thinking
no.
that
Oh, no.
all the noises that I heard was just probably a rat or some other
Oh,
animal that
no.
was spending
Oh, no.
the night in the closet while the cabin's owners were away. Quietly, I shifted onto my back, pulling my ski mask down slightly so a little slit appeared, giving me a small window to look out at what was there. I laid on the bed, stiff as a board, with my cap and my mask covering my face in such a way that it acted almost like a visor, giving me a small peek at what was in the darkness.
Oh, my God.
Thankfully, my eyes were still adjusted to the dark, which gave me a small amount of reassurance as I continued looking in the direction of the scratching noise.
Just leave.
The scratching continued.
Just leave
loud and loud
immediately.
for what seemed like minutes until, just like that,
Leave immediately.
silence filled the room again, but it wasn't a safe kind of silence. The deafening silence in the room was foreboding, ominous sort of silence.
No.
The vacuum of sound in the air was
I don't like
silence
it.
that happens
Oh
in
my
movies
God,
just
I don't
before
like
something
it.
jumps out at you. Just when I began to calm
Okay, you
myself
know
down,
what? Give me 1 sec. Okay, I'm
the
back.
doorknob to the closet.
I just realized I have the same hat sitting around, so I got it.
My heart was racing out of my chest as I saw and heard that knob turn.
Oh
Every inch
no.
of my body wanted to just bolt out of the bed and out of that
No!
cabin before whatever was on the other side
Window!
of that door
Window,
got
go!
after me.
Out it. Oh
I lay
no.
perfectly still on the bed, despite the fact that I had a cocktail of adrenaline, nerves, and instincts telling me to get the hell out of there.
Get out of there now.
My eyes widened as the door to the closet opened slightly.
No.
I saw what looked like a dried head attached to an elongated neck pop out of the opening, accompanied by a skeletal body.
No. No, no,
The
no.
thing that was emerging from the closet
No, no,
crawled
no,
on all
no,
fours
no,
out
no,
the
no, no,
doorway
no, no, no,
and
no, no, no.
slowly made its way to the bed that I was sleeping in. I had never been more frightened in my whole entire life as the thing stood up, almost touching the ceiling of the cabin, and looking down in my direction. The creature stood there studying me as I peeked through the thin slits in my mask. Pure terror swirling around in my mind as I glanced up at the body of
Is
the creature.
that?
Looking at the creature's skeletal face, I noticed that it had no eyes within its head,
Ew.
which led me to believe that it couldn't even see me even though I could see it. Just when the idea of not being able to see me started to give me a little comfort, the creature began to speak. Strange. The creature whispered softly as
What
it continued
the
to watch
heck?
me,
It's gonna go.
and then spoke again.
Oh my.
No fear of me.
No.
It continued to say in a hoarse tone as it began to breathe loudly, continuing to look at me and gripping down on the edge of my bed.
Oh my God.
Feeling the creature's bony hand touch the edge of my bed caused my brain to go into complete panic mode. The only thing that stopped me from jumping up was the thought that maybe the creature believed I was dead or asleep and wouldn't attack. How can it not fear? How can it not fear me? The
What
thing
the
sat through
heck?
clenched teeth before loudly gasping and suddenly pulling back with its mouth open in an expression that almost resembled fear. It has no face, the thing whispered to itself as it continued to back away.
What?
It has no face, the creature said
What
again,
is it?
this time louder than before and slightly more unnerved. No face,
Is it a
the
human?
creature shouted as it backed off further away from the bed. I heard the thing breathing loudly and quickly before calming down and slowly returning to the side of the bed. Leaning over me slowly, the creature continued to look at me before softly beginning to breathe on my face.
No.
I could smell its foul breath
No,
even through my
no,
mask.
no,
The
no.
smell was so powerful that it took all my strength not to gag as a reflex to the awful stench.
Oh my god.
In my mind, I made the choice to keep motionless, and did not do or say anything that would compromise whatever illusion I was giving the thing that was currently studying me. The creature breathed on me again, softly. The stench I smelled from its breath could only be described as rotten, which only strengthened my resolve to stay perfectly motionless.
What is it?
Strange.
What
The
is
thing
it?
whispered at me again, leaning in close to me to the point where I could see and smell its decaying flesh. The creature slowly reached for me, its hand moving slowly towards my face. With every inch that decaying hand moved, I couldn't help but feel my situation becoming more and more dire. I thought that this was it for me. The creature would kill me tonight, or take me away and torture me, then kill me, and no one would know what happened to me. No one would find my body out there, and no one would know my story. I could feel tears start to well up in my eyes as I thought of everyone I ever loved being yanked away from me in this one very moment. No face. No face.
I don't like it.
No face.
I don't like it at all.
The creature softly chanted as its hands crept ever closer to my face. I could hear the anguish in the creature's voice as it continued chanting over and over as it reached for me. As its long, bony hand crept only centimeters away from my face, I braced myself for the worst, making the last thoughts I would ever have about the people I loved. Just as I thought my life was all over, a sudden loud noise erupted from the room, filling the ear closer to the nightstand with a flood of beeps and causing the creature to scream and jump back. As the noise continued, the creature
get
threw
your
itself
phone,
back
run,
against the
run,
wall,
get your phone and
shrieking
run.
uncontrollably in terror as
Just
it
don't
stumbled back
stay.
towards the closet.
Just go and run
I was
to your
dumbstruck for a
car
second
and get in it
before the
and
thought
drive
came to me
away.
that I had set my alarm at 4:30, which must have been the source of all the noise. I jumped out of the bed, grabbed my phone,
Get
and
it,
pointed
go,
the lit up
go.
screen at the monster as the alarm continued to ring loudly.
It's just
The loud ringing caused
poor
the monster to
little
shriek even more
monster.
in confusion and terror as it retreated quicker as I approached. Seeing my chance, I activated my phone's flashlight and put it on strobe in order to disorientate the monster further. No face!
What?
No face!
What?
No face!
What?
No face!
What?
The creature
Close
shrieked
the
at me
door.
as it withdrew to the safety of the closet. I continued to shine my light on the creature, and for the added effect, I started playing loud music as I continued to jab my phone into the monster's direction like a lion tamer. The thing threw itself into the dark recesses of the closet, and I shoved the door back, locking it after I slammed it closed.
Go, 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 run.
The shrieks
Run.
coming from the monster started
Run.
to get fainter and fainter, like
Run.
it was almost retreating deeper into the house. No face! No face! No face!
Is it like Dobby the house elf? Is that what this is? Is that what this is like?
After hearing the last retreating words of the thing that terrified me the whole night,
Okay,
I
run.
bolted from the cabin at breakneck speed.
Yes, go.
Jumping into my car and floored it off the gravel road.
That's probably a good idea.
I was shaking all over as I drove,
Run.
and when I pulled my ski mask further down to expose my skin, I was as white as the snow that littered the ground. I was so frightened by the whole experience. As soon as I pulled into the first town I saw, I parked my car and began to sob uncontrollably for a while. The experience that I had just been through would scar me for life.
What?
But as I wept in my car in the parking lot of a convenience store, I couldn't help but start to laugh a little in between my fits of crying. I got through my ordeal without so much as a scratch on me. Aside from the mental scratches,
What?
I was fine. I was alive, and I didn't have to worry anymore. After I finished with my whole episode of crying and laughing like an insane person, I entered the store, sniffling and wiping away the rest of my emotions.
Oh,
As I
Scout.
continued into the store, the cashier looked up at me and traced my direction with his eyes before continuing with what he was doing. The store was mostly empty. Aside from an elderly couple, I was the only customer in there.
Oh, it's the administrator.
Rough night? The cashier said with one eyebrow cocked up while he scanned my items. You have no idea, I said, looking out of the window at the sun breaking over the horizon. I noticed you looked a bit.
Is that
upset
Demo
when you
Man's
came in.
sticky bomb in the
What
background?
happened?
Do you see that?
You get dumped or something? He said, looking up at me as the register computer.
And that's a
glitched
golden
out.
sticky launcher. And a bonk boy
Looking
and
at the young man
okay.
behind the register.
I'm just
He
gonna
seemed to
stop
be a little
pointing at
younger
every
than I was,
detail.
although that didn't say much because
sandwich
even though
safe.
I'm 22, I do look younger than my actual age. I looked at the cashier's name tag for a second before feeling that I had nothing to lose by telling him about the night I just had. The small name on his ID read Evan. And as I finished telling him my frightening tale, something odd happened. I expected him to burst out laughing or say that I was the best liar he had ever talked to. Instead of doing any of that, Evan just stood there. His skin, milk white, as he stared at me with an
Oh,
expression
officers
so horrifying.
Ushanka, Tommy
He
Slav,
gave
some
me
killer
the
clubs of
impression that he
boxing.
had just witnessed something get run over by a train or something. Evan, you alright? I said, looking into his eyes while we both just stood there.
Are you
Silent.
okay, Evan?
What? Oh, yeah. It's just, Evan began to say before his thoughts trailed off due to a new feeling that we were both being watched. I began to feel eyes burn into the back of my head before turning around to see the old couple I glanced at when I entered the store beforehand. The old couple possessed the same horrified expression that Evan had just a few seconds ago. They must have heard the whole story I told. After a few moments of silence, the old couple asked me what I knew about the cabin, to which I couldn't really say. I gave them the best description I could about what I saw.
What?
The couple proceeded
Is
to tell me
happening?
about the cabin, how long it had been there, and that it was haunted by a presence so terrifying that the place was condemned and left to rot away after so many people disappeared there. They told me that no one who ever stayed in that cabin has ever been seen alive again, if they've ever been seen at all after their visit. One of my best friends stayed the night in that cabin, Evan said quietly as he stared off into the distance, but continued his thoughts. with,
Okay.
I
Quickly.
refused to go into.
Sorry, Nuggy Puck is back.
I knew something bad would happen
I
if we went.
had to go to the
I
bathroom.
tried so hard to convince him that the dare was stupid and to not go in, but he refused to be labeled as a chicken and continued with the dare.
Oh no.
Evan's eyes began to water as he continued with his story.
Evan, no!
I never saw him again after that night. I kept
No.
calling his house, but his parents still couldn't find him. We put up flyers, billboards, but we never had any luck. After a few days, we contacted the police, and I told them about the cabin. Evan began to choke down his tears as he clenched his fist. They found him in the basement of that cabin, sprawled out on the floor. His eyes were ripped out of his face. His nose had been removed and his lips were sliced clean off. When they found him, he was naked with an incision in the bottom of his rib cage, down to his pelvis in the middle of his body. All of his organs were extracted from his body, and to add insult to injury, his genitals were sliced clean off. But you want to know the worst part of it all? When the police did the autopsy on the body, they found that he was alive during the whole process. Evan winced as he remembered the whole gruesome sight and said, "They never found who or what did it. There was no DNA evidence to convict anybody. They didn't find the tools that made the incisions, and they didn't find anything." Evan clenched his fist tighter on the table before the old man, listening to our conversation, put his hand on Evan's shoulder to reassure him that it was going to be all right. As he comforted Evan, he looked at me and said, "People have been disappearing from the area for decades.
Wow.
Maybe even centuries for all we know.
What?
The bodies always end the same gruesome
Is
way.
that like the Wendigo?
I don't care who you are. No one deserves something like that happening to them. They should just torch that damn place to the ground.
I agree with that.
The old lady joined her husband's side and looked at me with the most foreboding face I had ever seen. If your story is true, you should consider yourself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. In all my years of living, you are the only one to go into that cabin and emerge alive, the woman said, gripping onto her husband's hand tightly as she spoke to me. After hearing the old woman's words, I realized that Evan said the body of his friend was found in the basement, which would explain why the monster's voice got fainter.
Oh, it was a door to the basement?
I quickly paid for my items and left the store, more troubled now than I was when I entered. Feeling drowsy due to the lack of sleep and constant adrenaline rush caused by the whole terrible ordeal, I decided to go to a hotel and spend my day sleeping and relaxing to get my mind off things. That night, I sat on the bed in my hotel room and
No.
looked at the two items that saved my
No,
life.
I know what's gonna happen here.
In one hand, I gripped onto my ski mask,
I know
which
what
hid
is
my
gonna happen
face
here.
from that terrible monster. In my other hand, I held my cell phone, which scared away the horrible beast that could have killed me. I decided from that day on, I would always wear my ski mask to bed. It saved my life. That's the least I can do for it. The recent brush with death I just experienced had taught me that life is far too precious to waste, so I decided to ask my best friend Samantha out on a date, and things worked out perfectly.
Yay.
Samantha and I were together for 2 years before I recently asked her for her hand in marriage.
No.
Which she said, yes.
That's...
Part
Oh.
of me will never ever forget that awful night. And because of it, not only have I been wearing my ski mask to bed every night since then, I've also made it a priority not to live in any type of house that has a basement.
Good idea.
As an added safety measure, I started locking every door before going to bed. It's a pain, but you can never be too careful. Despite these crazy precautions, Samantha has accepted my little quirks and has continued to be supportive as we continue our journey through life.
Well, that's
together.
nice.
I couldn't be happier with the way things turned out in my life, and I'm so lucky to be with Samantha. Everything's perfect. There's
Insightful.
just one thing that bothers me, and I think I might just have to blame my imagination, but sometimes, when I wake up at night,
No.
when it's really, really quiet,
No. Don't say it.
sometimes I'll hear soft scratching noises.
Don't you... I knew you were gonna
Also,
say that.
I think it's
You
just
shouldn't
paranoia, but I
have.
swear, sometimes I hear something whisper. No face.
You shouldn't have done that. No.
From inside my closet.
Oh my god. Okay. That was a good creepypasta. That was a really good creepypasta. Shout out to Super Static Pro for making that. Go subscribe to him. That's very good. It's a good animation, and I will probably do another creepypasta video next time. Okay, bye.